Yo, what's up guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. Let's wrap up this series. We'll do the Atlantic. I've done the Central. I've done the Pacific. I've done the Metro. Now it's time to finish this up. Let's finish it up. Let's do the Atlantic and let's talk some underrated players. There's two things that I really can get behind and cheer for, and that's underrated teams and that's underrated players. So this is a series that I was really excited to do, but I'm also really excited to wrap it up, and just because I want to see your comments, because in the first 3 videos, you guys had some awesome suggestions. So when I prepared for this video, or all 4 videos really, I created a list of, we'll say, between 30 and 40 names for each division. And so with the Atlantic division, I had, I think, 34 names that on my list, and I've narrowed it down to 5. These 5 are not my top 5. Okay, it's a completely subjective list, but these are not ranked. I'm not saying that these are the top 5 most underrated players in the NHL. I just wanted to give you 5 of my 34. I didn't want this to be a 55-minute long video. So just a quick video for you. Let's get into it. Here are 5 players that I think are incredibly underrated in the Atlantic Division. Number 1, Alexander Barkov. Now, usually in my videos, I say it's okay to disagree. Everyone has their own opinion. There's no really wrong or right about things. I'm just going to say it. If you don't think that Alexander Barkov is underrated, I think you're wrong. I think you're flat out wrong. Alexander Barkov is probably one of the most underrated players in the entire league, not just the Atlantic Division. He is, in my opinion, the definition of power forward. He can basically do it all. He's not the best defensive player, but he's a very good two-way player, in my opinion. He's big. I think he's, oh geez, he must be 6'3" or 6'4", over 200 pounds. He's a big boy and he can throw his weight around. He's good in basically every aspect of the ice. His face-off percentage is really good, one of the best in the league. I think it's above 54%. So he's a player that, for whatever reason, just kind of flies under the radar. And yeah, you see him in the All-Star game, and you see him in as the staple boy of Florida and flyers and posters and all this other stuff. But for whatever reason, he just continues to fly under the radar from a league perspective. And I don't know if it's because he plays for a team like Florida, which doesn't have the biggest fan base and doesn't get talked about that much. If Barkov was on the Vancouver Canucks, I'm sure that his status would be a little bit higher in the general fan base around the league. But there's no question, Alexander Barkov is extremely underrated. Number 2, Brayden Point. So we talked a little bit about a Florida player. Let's jump on over to Tampa Bay, the brother-sister team relationship, whatever you want to call it. A little bit of rivalry coming between those two teams. I think maybe this year that was kind of birthed. But when I look at Barkov and I think about a comparable player, Brayden Point really isn't that comparable, because Brayden Point's roughly 5'10". He's size-wise, they don't compare at all. But in an underrated factor, I think Brayden Point is the most underrated player on Tampa, as I think Alexander Barkov is probably the most underrated player on Florida. Brayden Point is a small, very skilled, very, very smart hockey player. He can play the wing and he can play center. He's good in the center, above 50%. He's reliable. He can be used in basically any situation, regardless of the position on the ice, whether you want him on a penalty kill, or a power play or whatever. Like, he doesn't get utilized in some of those situations very often or very frequently, but he's the type of player that you can trust. You can just throw out there. And he's young. He's 24 or something like that. So super impressed by Brayden Point. He's absolutely one of my favorite players in the Atlantic Division. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about him. He's underrated. Number 3, Zach Hyman. So as a Canadiens fan, it is difficult to say good things about the Toronto Maple Leafs and specifically their players, but there's no question that Zach Hyman is completely underrated. He flies so far under the radar in Toronto, in the league, it's not even funny. You've got players like Mitch Marner, Matthews, Riley, Nylander, Tavares. Like, that team is just stacked with superstars, right? And then you've got little old Zach Hyman in there just kind of doing his thing and doing it so well. He's such a well-rounded player. Whether it's he can put the puck in the net. He definitely can put the puck in the net, but he can also put the puck on your stick as well. He has a really good balance to his game. He's a very good defensive player, and probably their most valuable depth forward. Their most valuable two-way depth forward, I would say, above the superstars. All those superstars, they can put the puck in the net and do it well. But I think the balance of Zach Hyman's game is the strongest of any. Now, I want to say that of any player, but I mean, just he's such a two-way player, and he's such a balanced player that to me, I would rather have a Zach Hyman on my team than a Nylander. Now that's probably the unpopular opinion, that I'm probably in the minority there, but I'd rather a depth player that I can put out on the first line if I need to, and know that he'll probably do pretty well and probably adapt to whatever kind of player or player style is surrounding him. So Zach Hyman is 100% a player that I would like to see on my team, the Montreal Canadiens, and is, in my opinion, is definitely overrated or underrated. Number 4, Philip Danault. Okay, so here we go. We got a Canadiens fan picking a player off the Canadiens. How biased is he? Well, if you actually watch the Canadiens from just a general hockey fan perspective, and if I remove myself as a fan, I don't even think you can argue with me that Philip Danault is underrated. If you don't think he is, I think you're letting your hatred towards Montreal. If you're not a Canadiens fan, maybe you're a Maple Leafs fan or Boston fan, I think you're letting that hatred sink in a little bit too deep, because from a very level-headed opinion, he is underrated. He flies very, very far under the radar in the Atlantic Division, in Montreal, and the league entirely. He's a very good face-off man. He can play the penalty kill. He can play the power play. He's fast. He's very quick. His feet are quite underrated, and he's a very good stick handler as well. So I'm very proud to say that Philip Danault is on the Montreal Canadiens, and yeah, I hope he doesn't go anywhere anytime soon, because Lord knows the Canadiens need him. That's for damn sure. Number 5, Brad Marchand. All right, well, I guess we can't really wrap up this video until we talk about Braddy Boy. Listen, I am not a fan of Brad, okay? I don't even like saying his name. It sends shivers down my spine. But there is no question, there is no denying that he is one of the most underrated and most skilled players in the NHL completely. League-wide, throw the Atlantic Division out, let's talk league-wide. Brad Marchand is extremely underrated, and it pisses me off. It genuinely pisses me off because I don't like him. But he's so good. Like, it really does piss me off, but he's so good. And I hate when he goes on these antics and does his stupid stuff, and it's the reason why I don't like him. But if he just played the game that he's good at, the speed game, he's extremely intelligent. He's always in the right place at the right time. He just has that ability. Some players just don't have it. You know, they just don't have it. He knows. And it helps when you're playing with a player like Bergeron. They have that chemistry and have had that chemistry for a while, so they know where each other are without looking. So that definitely helps. But his awareness is extremely good. He's quick. He's small and agile. He can get out of situations that most players would get stuck in. So I really can't say anything negative about his style of actual gameplay. It's phenomenal. I wouldn't change anything about it. I would change his behavior, I guess, maybe after the whistle or away from the puck. But yeah, it's painful to say, but Brad Marchand is extremely underrated. And I can't be embarrassed to say that because it is the truth. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I would love it if you could leave down below, you know, if you want to make a list of 5 or 10 or whatever. If you just want to leave one of your favorite, or maybe you pick one player from the Atlantic Division, you think this is the ultimate underrated player from the Atlantic Division, that's totally fine. But I really want to maybe think outside the box and kind of pick maybe an untypical underrated player. I've got some very typical underrated players in my lists. If you can think of an untypical underrated player, I would love to hear your suggestion down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for contributing. I really appreciate that. I love it if you could hit the subscribe button. And if you haven't seen those first 3 videos on the Metro, the Central, and the Pacific, I would love it if you could go watch those. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Hit that like button down below too, and I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.